podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
Welcome to How Are the Podcast. It's Gav, and you join us for another transfer update pod. We are here to chat all about the seemingly incoming acquisition, or is he an acquisition if he's a free transfer? I don't know. Of Reinildo, who is a left back from Atletico Madrid, 31-year-old Mozambique international, and by all accounts, we've beaten off competition from other Premier League clubs in Leeds United and Crystal Palace to sign this defender. And because we obviously know loads about him, I thought, why not get on a pod and let's pretend we are experts, because unfortunately, there are no experts from the Athletic or Sky Sports, just experts from Roker Report on the pod today. And joining me is Bomber. All right, mate.
Hello, mate. Yeah, we're the best kind of experts, aren't we?
That's it. The ones who just open Wikipedia and Transfer Market and go, I know him, or they've used them on Football Manager, and yeah, we just pretend, don't we?
Yeah, it's normally a Football Manager reference, isn't it?
Yeah, it looks like this guy is on his way into Sunderland, and another one which came out a bit from left field, really. I know we've had a couple of days to digest this news. I think it first broke maybe on Saturday or Sunday. But I mean, not somebody, I will not pretend to be an expert. I haven't watched this guy play 30 games or whatever, so I can't sit here and give you a detailed breakdown of who he is, but we can talk generally about him and what this means for Sunderland. But 31-year-old coming in from a top club. I mean, Atletico Madrid are in, they've got to be in the top 10 clubs in Europe, you would say.
Well, they're in the Club World Cup, weren't they? So they've got to be up there.
Yeah. And, somebody who, a 31-year-old would be our oldest player, I think, as of right now. I can't think of anyone older. I don't think Luke O'Nine's quite 31 yet, is he?
No.
But a free transfer, again, like I say, coming in from a big club, loads of experience, adding competition in a position we needed in. I remember having this conversation last week, and we were talking about, bringing in proper competition for Cirkin and Hume. I mean, this is proper competition, right? This guy's not coming in to mess around. And free transfer, which if you can get in good players on frees when you're spending 30-odd million on other players, it's not a bad thing, is it?
No, definitely not. I mean, like you said, he's not coming from Atletico Madrid to come and sit on the bench. He's coming to want to play in the Premier League. He's gonna be wanting to make a serious contribution. And there's still those rumours flying around about Dennis Cirkin as well. That Tottenham link is still there. It's not going away anywhere. I think it's without knowing exactly who he is, what he's capable of, etc. Just on paper, at least, I think it's a fantastic signing, particularly for a free agent.
Yeah.
I guess his age doesn't necessarily fit the profile of somebody. Well, actually, it does fit the profile of somebody that we would bring in on a free. If you think about all the players we brought in.
If you think about it, it's what we've been saying we need to be able to compete in the Premier League. We can't do it with kids. We're going to need a handful of these sort of 28, 29, 30, 31-year-olds just to, give us top-level experience on the pitch.
Well, here's a question for you then, Gal. I'm just looking at his experience on paper. When was the last time that we had a player that's played 74 times in La Liga, 66 times in Ligue 1, 25 Champions League games, 6 Europa League games, Copa del Rey, Portuguese Premier League? Just the list of his experience goes on. And even so much as in the last couple of weeks, he's been out at the Club World Cup playing for. All right, he was sat on the bench for large portions of it, but I think he got on against Paris Saint-Germain in the Club World Cup. He's an experienced international as well, so played in the Africa Cup of Nations and things like that. I think it's exactly the type of experience that we need to be bringing in, that also won't stifle what we're trying to do in terms of developing young players for the future, for future success or for future profit. So yeah, on paper at least, I'm all for it.
And I think the one thing I always do if we are signing a player is I head to Twitter, obviously that place where everyone has great opinions,
Yeah.
But I head to Twitter and see what people are saying, and overwhelmingly the Atletico Madrid fans seem gutted about this, which I think is a really positive sign. It's very easy to look at him and go, I don't know much about this guy. We've already got a left back. He's 31. Apparently he had an ACL injury a couple of seasons ago. So if you look at his games played, he hasn't played 40-odd games a season. He's been playing 20-odd games a season. That's because 2 seasons were broken up by his recovery from an ACL injury. But you can look at all those things and think, I don't know about this one. If you go out there and read what the Atletico fans are saying about him, it should give you real hope, because I think he's really connected with their fans by being a tough tackling defender. I did watch a video of him where it was a great recovery tackle where somebody looked clean through on goal. They were going to score. He makes up about 20 yards on this player and wins the ball. And you watch that and you go, bloody hell, how good's he? But apparently, you see that and I think, well, is he a wing back? Is he somebody who is better on the left of a 3? But by all accounts, from what the Madrid fans are saying, he's an out-and-out defender. He's a bit of a left-sided Trey Hume, which I'm not adverse to. We know we love those types of players. And he's really acquitted himself well in La Liga, because their fans, just like our fans, like to see a defender first and foremost, and that's apparently what he is. So, he may not be coming in to be first choice. He may just be competition for Cirkin. And as you said, we don't know. That's still up in the air. Dennis Cirkin, we don't know whether he might get himself a move elsewhere. But this solidifies us. It gives us assurance and confidence, and it brings in proper experience. Like, we're not talking about someone who's in the twilight years. He's not 34, 35. He's 31. He's still got a lot of pace, and he'll be wanting to challenge himself in the Premier League. And I'm pretty excited about this one. I didn't see it coming. I don't think anybody did, really.
No.
But it's it's a signing that should give us a lot of confidence, I think.
Yeah, most definitely. Like you said, there'll be people who will look at it on the face of it and go, "Oh, he's a 31-year-old. He's being let go as a free agent," and you automatically assume that when somebody's picked up as a free agent, it's because they're not good enough, or not fancied within the team that they're playing in, which isn't always the case. It's it's a lazy link to make. He's quite clearly, he wouldn't have played for the clubs that he has and wouldn't have got the number of appearances for Atletico, who, let's not forget, are almost always challenging alongside Barca and Real Madrid for the La Liga title. So you don't get to play as many games for Atletico as he has without being a very, very good player, despite age and everything else. I think it can only be a positive thing. I think it's good, and it's a massive sign for the club of things to come, that we can beat off other more established Premier League sides in bringing him in. Obviously, I think, was it Leeds was another one that was in for him as well. Obviously, they're newly promoted.
The article in The Sun quoted Leeds and Palace.
Yeah. So, if you compare to Palace, their last couple of seasons have been fantastic. Last season in particular was very, very good for them. They're obviously looking to kick on. So if they're looking at him, or they were looking at him as them being able to kick on, then he's certainly going to be good enough for us, trying to stay in the league and beyond.
And they're playing in Europe next season. So
yeah,
there was that carrot dangling for him. And I'm sure it'll go down well with Leeds fans that we've beat them to yet another player. Yeah. What do you make of the deal? 2 years, apparently, according to Fabrizio Romano. I think that's about right, isn't it, for a 31-year-old who's had a bad injury in recent years, although he has recovered from it. He's played quite a lot of games since, and he's still got his pace and all the rest of it. But 2 years is about right, isn't it?
I think so. Yeah, I think anything more than that, and then probably a few eyebrows would be raised. Particularly, I guess we have to be a little bit careful with players like that, because what we don't want to necessarily be doing is overcommitting, and then in the unfortunate event that we end up going back down next season, you've seen it happen a lot where clubs have overinvested and overcommitted on players with big wages on long contracts, and they get screwed for it for the next 2-3 years. So it is a sensible one. Again, it plays into what we're trying to do in the transfer market. If you think like when we're bringing in players that are in and around their late 20s, early 30s, it's not the longer term deals that the likes of Lafay and etc. have been brought in on. I think it makes sense. And just to go back to your point about how we're going to take to him as fans, you're right. If he is a left-sided Trey Hume, you think how well loved Trey Hume is amongst the entire fan base I think you'd struggle to find a single person who doesn't like Trey Hume as a first choice right back. And if he happens to be, an African left back version of Trey Hume, I mean, he's going to be a fan favourite from the off, really, isn't he?
Yeah. It's interesting as well. Before he played for Atletico Madrid, he was with Lille and he won the French league and he won the French Super Cup. And I imagine it's that which put him on the radar of our club, because obviously we've got a French owner, a French director of football now, although he's not officially in post. I think it's fair to say that Giusolfi is in post and work, and you can tell by some of the players we've been linked with, it's got his influence written all over it. And also a French manager who know him well, and I think that's important. And it makes me think back to when Tony Mowbray was manager, and this apparent internal struggle that there was between upper management and the actual head coach of the team, and how all the rumours were circling that these weren't Mowbray's players, and he was being forced to play certain players. I think this is a very cohesive unit we've got now, and I think Lebris has got a lot more say than people might have realised, because you see it in some of the players we've been linked with and the apparent signings we're making. These are players that they know, and that, to be honest, that is really reassuring, because you don't want a situation like, to a much lesser degree, but what's happened at Sheffield United, where they've basically had a new owner come in. Wilder's been given free rein to sign players, but they want to go a totally different route, and they're signing players for him that he doesn't want, and then all of a sudden he's out of a job. That's the last thing you want, isn't it? You want to be signing players like what we are, who everybody in a position of influence are fully aware of and have had full say on. You don't want to be signing players for Lebris who he's looking at and going, I wouldn't have signed him. I don't know where he's going to fit in. I don't know if we'd get on together. Clearly he's had a big say in this, because it's a player he must know from his time in France.
Yeah, he must do. And like you said, it's quite clear evidence, isn't it, that the likes of Speakman, Giusolfi, Lebris are all working as a unit, and it's going to take a bit of everything. It's going to take Speakman's links and Giusolfi's links within Europe, and it's going to take Lebris to pick out players who he's worked with at a younger age group or at some point in France, and who he knows and who can trust him. And by the sounds of it, players who will run through brick walls for him. We've been linked with a number of players. I think Guendouzi is another one, isn't it? That's been linked more recently, and he was couldn't speak highly enough of Lebris. So it seemed that anybody who has had any sort of development in France under the tutelage of Regis Lebris will run through brick walls for him. And if he can pull on, you think of the contacts between the three of them, think of their little black books. And if you combined all those little black books together, I mean, it's really, really exciting. I mean, the whole of Europe is basically our oyster at this point. We seem to be focusing most of our efforts in France, which makes perfect sense. But yeah, I mean, it's another exciting signing in what I think is going to be a long line of really exciting signings. And I think if we hit the ground running of the season, I think we're going to be the talk of every sports outlet, Sky Sports, DAZN. Everybody is going to be talking about us. You think about the amount of kind of coverage and praise we got last season, being in the EFL and having a young, exciting team, etc. It's just going to explode. And if we go through the first 6 games of the season and somehow find ourselves hitting the ground running and in the top 10, then the excitement and the over Sunderland is going to be phenomenal.
Yeah. Just to go backwards slightly, the physical profile of the players we seem to be targeting is interesting, because we've all said on podcasts recently, to compete in the Premier League, you have to be physically capable. It's the big difference. We're always told this, but there's a lot of quality in the Championship, but a lot of players struggle with that step up physically. Mm-hmm. And I know that Reinildo's had his problems. He had an ACL injury, which again apparently he's fully recovered from. But a physical player, similar to Habib Diarra, somebody who we're told is a really physical player. I think it is important, isn't it, that we add that to the squad, because there are going to be games where we need to dig in and we need to really fight for everything. And there'll be games where we just out-battle teams because we've got that ability within the ranks. But one of the I would say the downfalls of this squad in the last probably 3 seasons, when you can go right through it and you can point to like Adji, say Dennis Cirkin, the two most obvious ones that come to mind immediately. Sealt's had injury problems. Chris Riggs, small, he's not quite fully developed yet. We can go right through the team. Mundo's had his problems with injuries.
Yeah,
we can't afford to have that issue next season. For Sunderland to stay in the Premier League, these lads we're signing are going to have to be available and fit and ready to go. And yeah, you're going to have injuries. There's no team in the world avoids injury completely. But a big part of the recruitment strategy this year has to be going out and signing players like Reinildo, who, when you're coming up against West Ham on the opening day, are going to put a foot in and they're going to let them know we're there and they're going to, compete. And, I look at that. The two big things that stand out to me with him, one are his, apparent playing style. The fact that he gets his foot in and he isn't hot, he isn't, afraid to be physically competitive. I read something about him. Apparently, he had an unbelievable game against Real Madrid, against Rodrigo, who's a world-class winger. And he had him in his back pocket because physically, because not only is he physical, but he's rapid. So, whereas I would say Trey Hume's a very physical defender. He's not rapid, is he? He's not going to outpace somebody 9 times out of 10. But
if he's got a chance to throw himself into a 50-50, he'll do it. Yeah, even 60-40 not in his favour, he'll still throw himself into it. I mean, I think that Real Madrid game, I'm assuming that's the Champions League quarter-final as well. Because they obviously played Real not quarter-final, sorry, last 16 in a knockout.
Not too
group.
Sure, I'd have to look it up. But
yeah, I mean, that was the one they lost on penalties, and Atletico were really good in that game. So I'm assuming it's that, but I might be wrong. But just to add to your point, if you think, like, which team is synonymous with being the most physical, the hardest battling, the most difficult to play against in Europe? It's Atletico Madrid. So if you're taking one,
just add back, you were bang on. He played 98 minutes of that game in December. Was it December? Or, sorry, no, March.
Yeah, it would have been
They lost on penalties. So yeah, you're right. Yeah, it was that game.
Yeah. So yeah, like I said, if you think of if I was to say to you, which team's the most physical, the most hard to play against, the most battling, it's Atletico Madrid, isn't it? It's without question, over the last 5, 6, 7 years, they are the team who nobody really wants to play against because it's just a fight. So we're taking one of the most physical players, according to the fans, and one of their most endeared and physical combative players from one of the most physical and combative teams in Europe, and slotting him into our starting lineup. I keep saying it. It's really exciting without knowing him. Just on paper and everything that I see and the links that I make, just suggests to me that if he's fit and he can play 30 games in a season or 25 games in a season, he could be phenomenal for us. He really could. He's not. It doesn't look like he's that much of like a goal scorer, but like you said, he's kind of an out and out defender. And I think the way in which we will get through this season with a degree of success is playing that counter attacking football that got us to where we got to last season. So that means that our back four, we're not necessarily going to have wing backs and fullbacks that are going to bomb on. We're going to need fullbacks that are going to put a foot in and get the ball forward. And it looks like he certainly fits that bill. I would just add that he appeared on my Transfer Tuesday 2 weeks ago. Mm-hmm. So, I'm not saying I broke the news, but I definitely reported it a couple of weeks ago.
I think I did read something yesterday which said we've been tracking him as early as March, but I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know. I would imagine we have.
But that's really good, though, isn't it? Because if you're nothing suggests that any of these signings are knee-jerk reactions. Even though we're only just hearing their names now in the last 2-3 weeks, everything evidences us as a really well thought out, meticulously planned set of targets. And all right, we won't get everybody, we won't get our first target in every position that we want to strengthen. But even if that's not the case, our second and third choices seem to be very well thought out, not knee jerk, and equally as impressive. So
Yeah, there's another thing which is coming to mind, and again, we will find this out in time. We have no way of predicting this, but he's never played in England. We have no idea about his ability to adapt to Premier League football. I mean, I hinted at it before. I think physically, if he's a physical defender, then he's going to fit in. If he's got pace, he's going to fit in. But it's that he hasn't played in England yet. However, 4 seasons in La Liga, 4 seasons in Ligue 1, and a season in the Portuguese top league when he was with Belenenses. He's, whilst he hasn't played in England, he has been to different leagues, different countries, and he's adapted. And at 31, you would expect, he's going to be able to do that, providing he's got a decent grasp of English, which, you'd like to think he has, because he's lived in different countries, and it being a universal language, it's something you tend to pick up, and you find that. That's the only slight concern I've got. Can you transfer those skills and abilities to the Premier League? But then the whole squad's going through that at the minute, because they're all, I think, other than Roberts, who might have had a couple of sub appearances in the Premier League, I don't think we've got any Premier League experience in the squad yet.
No.
So that's a question mark of everybody, not just him. But it is something we have to consider.
It is. I'm not necessarily as concerned. Like I said, and all my opinions are based on what I'm seeing in front of me on paper, and me putting 2 and 2 together and hoping that I'm making 4. But similar to what you said, there's evidence that he can go to other countries, other cultures, other playing styles, adapt and thrive. He's played over 50 games in 4 different leagues, and I've also, whilst you've been talking, just been looking down his Champions League fixtures. He played 90 minutes in a 0-0 against Man City. He played 90 minutes in a 1-0 win against Man United, a 1-1 draw against Man United, a 1-0 defeat against Man City. He's played against Chelsea twice. He's come up against...
I think the fact he played in that Real Madrid game, which is not only a derby, but a massive game in the Champions League, and he was trusted from the start. It says a lot about his character, I think, because, shirkers don't get picked for games like that.
No, absolutely not. But like I said, the record here, as I look at it, is pretty decent against English clubs. Like I said, he's played twice against Chelsea, twice against Man City, twice against Man United, if you can call them a big Premier League club anymore. But stood up well, played 90 minutes in all of those games, and I think the worst result was a 1-0 defeat to Man City at the Etihad, which is, not that much of a disgrace, is it, really? So yeah, I think he'll stand up to the test of English football. I might be here in 6 months' time with absolute egg on my face, but like I said, the paper evidence that's in front of me suggests he'll do that, no problem. And I think the only question mark will be, can we keep him fit enough to play 20-25 games in a season?
Yeah. Well, we'll see, won't we? And we think we think we've signed a good player here. Again, like any of these things, you don't know until you actually see them on the pitch and you see how they mesh with the other players and all the rest of it.
Doesn't stop you getting excited about it, though, does it?
Mate. That's it. That's why we do this, isn't it? That's why
exactly.
we do this. We got very excited about the keeper last week, and then, a Saudi team come in and throw a spanner in the works, and it may well be that he doesn't sign for us. So, there's going to be a few of them, but we will endeavour to do these pods regardless when there's concrete news to react to. When Fabrizio Romano's reporting stories, and we can basically take this gospel at that point, Sky Sports and all the rest of it, we'll be chatting about it. But it looks like this one's all but done. His contract with Atleti expires on today, the 30th of June. And he will become a free agent as of the 1st, by which point you would imagine Sunderland will announce that 2-year deal with him. He said his goodbyes. They've said their goodbyes to him. As I said right at the top of this, I think it's incredibly heartening and should give us a lot of hope, the way that this has been done. He hasn't just been a one-liner on their website saying good luck for the future. The fans have reacted to this really emotionally. He's made a real connection with a fan base who have seen some world-class football. It's not like he was he wasn't starting every single game for them, but they really recognise this guy as a warrior. And I just think we've got to be excited about that. We're not going out there, we're not signing mercenaries, we're signing lads who want to be here. That's the most important thing. And I'm just really, really excited to see him play. And I'm really excited to see competition for Dennis Cirkin in that left-back position. I think it can only be a good thing for the squad that we bring in proper quality. And that's what we're seeing. And that's why we're getting excited. And that's why we're doing these podcasts, Bomber. And I'm sure we'll be back at various points over the next, 2 months we've got left of the transfer window.
It's mad, isn't it, to think that we've still got another 8 weeks of this.
I know. I can't wait. I love it, really. It's nice. It's nice to be doing this about a Premier League Sunderland team because there's only so much excitement you can build up when you're talking about Callum Styles signing on a loan from Barnsley, or, like those things just don't get the juices flowing. Signing a Mozambique international from, I know Mozambique's not a particularly exciting nation, but we've never had a Mozambique international before.
No.
From Atletico Madrid, who's, done big things in the game. It's got to give us...
It sounds fake, doesn't it? Because of all the shit that we've been through over the last 6-7 years, to now have to say that we're competing with other Premier League teams for a Mozambique international who's an ex-French, was it French League champion or Portuguese League champion, and a Champions League player from Atletico Madrid. It's madness. But I'm for it. I'm here for it.
Absolutely. And like I say, we've got our regular daily releases on the pod feed, so you'll not miss out on them. We've got plenty coming up this week, but as and when there's stuff to react to, we will drop in little nuggets like this one, and you can listen to them as and when you please. Feedback's been great on the pod recently. Everyone seems to be loving it. The fact we've kept busy over the summer is a bit mad, really, considering now it's really gone on. We've managed to find loads of things to talk about, so get subscribed if this is the first time you've listened to us. If it's not the first time you've listened to us, tell your mates, like, share, all that bollocks. Hit 5 stars on whatever pod app you use, and I think on Spotify as well, you can actually leave comments, and a lot of people do that, so leave those comments, and we might even utilise that feature for a Q&A pod at some point. I think we're due a Q&A, so we'll do that with Twitter and all the rest of it. Loads we can do, Bomber, isn't there?
There is.
The lads will be back with another top 10 this week as well, which I believe is in the can and recorded. We've also got the Paul Thirlwell interview, which I promised on Sunday, but then more pressing things happened and I've held that back. So if we have a quiet day this week, there will be a really good interview with former Sunderland midfielder and captain Paul Thirlwell. People might forget that he captained us under Mick McCarthy in that championship season where we got the playoff semi-finals. So that will appear at some point, I'm imagining, this week. So plenty to catch up on, plenty to look forward to. Just need to say thank you very much, Bomber. Been great, mate.
Thank you, mate. Pleasure as always.
Yes, and thank you to the listeners. We will be back, like I say, with another pod probably in a couple of hours when Romano breaks into the mad story. See you then.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.